We have come here basically to raise awareness about the degrading environmental situation inside Tibet. As you know that, like in the past around 5 decades, the environmental situation has degraded. Especially, there has been a huge melting of glaciers, degradation of the permafrost layers, and the grasslands are now being converted into desert. And then because of that, there are Chinese policies which also come into the act. For example, the recent Chinese policy is to remove Tibetan nomads from their traditional grasslands in the name of protecting the grasslands. So these are some of the policies which are actually not practical. And so we are here to create awareness about that. We believe that nomads have every right to remain or to live their own lifestyle, and they should not be forced to move to the settlement camps being made by the Chinese government. And besides that, we are also concerned about the rivers which are originating from the Tibetan Plateau. As we all know that most of the major rivers of Asia, it originates from Tibetan Plateau, which is at an average 4,500 meters high. So, but nowadays the problems of river pollution, the problems of the drop in the level of water in the rivers is so drastic, and which is in a way affecting the people living downstream. And it is estimated that around 1.3 billion people, they live in the downstream areas of the rivers which are originating from Tibet. So these are the few environmental concerns which we are here to talk about.
And many people, if they haven't been to Tibet, and I certainly haven't had that fortunate that luck yet, they might just think it's a quite a barren, rocky landscape. You're so high up. Can anything grow there? So tell us a bit about the biodiversity in Tibet. Do you have many natural animals living up there? Do you have different plants that are unique to that landscape?
Yeah, in fact, Tibet is very diverse in terms of plant and animal species. And in fact, there are certain plant and animal species which are of like high altitude species, which are only found on the Tibetan Plateau. For example, you must have heard a species called caterpillar fungus. It is very unique. The half of the body is caterpillar and half of the body is a grass. So this is used as a medicine in Tibet as well as in China. So this is something which is very typical of Tibet. Similarly, there are animals like yak, the Tibetan antelope. Then, so these are a few of the animals and plant species which are so unique to Tibet, which only exist in the high altitude areas. And these are things that we really need to preserve, and their problems should be addressed.
Okay, and finally, briefly, clearly the political situation in Tibet is not going to change overnight, perhaps not in the next decade or so. So what do you hope to achieve at this conference?
I think that the Tibetan situation should be looked from three different angles, and all these three angles may be interrelated, but then we can clearly draw a demarcation between that. So one is the Tibetan people's political rights. Second is the Tibetan people's right to preserve their culture and tradition. And third, of course, is the preservation of Tibet's rich environment. So the preservation of the rich environment, we can consider this separately, like leaving aside all the political complications and vis-a-vis Chinese government. But then the Tibetan environment is, the protection is not only about, not only for Tibetans. It concerns like 1.3 billion people. So and nowadays scientists are referring to Tibet as the planet's third pole. So this clearly show how important the Tibetan Plateau is. So it's something not like limited to Tibetans, but to the Asia and as well as the entire world as a whole. So this is something we should be really concerned about.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dhundup.